the U.S. and Iran exchanged fire for the 13th straight night, with both sides showing no signs of slowing down. Axios reports that President Trump told the outlet yesterday he's seriously considering restarting major combat operations in Iran, including strikes that would be bigger than the ones carried out during Operation Epic Fury. Quote, "I'm considering a massive attack, bigger than ever before. I'm close to making a decision. We are all set for it," he said. Trump, however, acknowledged that such a decision would have consequences and stressed he hasn't made a determination yet, again, according to Axios. Meanwhile, as the stalemate continues, the New York Times reports that Iran rejected a U.S. ceasefire proposal presented to them by the Iraqi prime minister. Iranian officials told the Times that it was the only offer on the table and that their government wasn't interested in a temporary deal that left the question of control of the Strait of Hormuz unresolved.
Every time it feels like the world is stepping back from the brink of another major conflict, a new headline reminds us just how fragile peace really is. Now, reports suggest Donald Trump is seriously considering restarting large-scale military operations against Iran, with strikes that could be even bigger than those we've already seen. At the same time, Congress is raising fresh concerns about presidential war powers, global energy markets are reacting with uncertainty, and even some of Trump's most loyal supporters appear to be questioning where this conflict is heading. This isn't just another foreign policy story. It's about the lives that could be affected, the economic impact on families here at home, and whether the United States is once again moving toward a wider war without a clear national consensus. So make sure you watch this video all the way to the end, because the final analysis explains why this decision could reshape American politics, the global economy, and the future of U.S. leadership in ways many people aren't talking about. And if you believe the path forward is built on progress, diplomacy, and responsible leadership, hit that subscribe button. Let's build the strongest voice for democracy online together.
Of course, remains at the center of the conflict. President Trump yesterday claimed any damage to ships will be paid for with frozen Iranian funds. Iran's foreign minister, for his part, responded that such a move would set, quote, an incendiary precedent. Meanwhile, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels threatened to block Saudi-linked shipping through the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest trade routes. Another one for us to pay attention to now. The Houthis say they attacked 2 Saudi oil tankers there, with Saudi authorities confirming a fire on one vessel but reporting no casualties. The latest escalation is fueling fears of another hit to global energy markets, with oil briefly topping $100 a barrel as traders worried that further disruptions could choke off key supply routes. President Trump responded on Truth Social, warning that if the Houthis attack ships again, the U.S. would hold Iran responsible and inflict major military punishment on both Iran and the Houthis. Trump called the Houthis a proxy of Iran and said they had been very responsible until this latest attack, urging them not to escalate the conflict further. It comes as the New York Times points out that the number of U.S. troop deaths in the Iran war suddenly appeared lower on the Pentagon website this week, dropping from 18 listed on Wednesday to 14 on Thursday. 3 military officials told the paper that one reason behind that change was that the Trump administration decided to remove 4 service members killed just this past weekend from the list because their deaths occurred after President Trump declared a ceasefire in the war in April. The acting press secretary for the Pentagon, on the other hand, attributed the change to temporary data disruptions on the website that he suggested would be quickly fixed. And they should be. And the House is once again telling President Trump to either end the war in Iran or come to Congress for approval to keep fighting it. Lawmakers passed this non-binding resolution with 4 Republicans joining Democrats in a bipartisan rebuke of the president's handling of this conflict. One of them, Michigan Congressman Tom Barrett, defended his vote, saying, quote, "My position hasn't changed. Only Congress has the authority to authorize military action in Iran. I remain ready to work with anyone to eliminate hostile threats to our nation without getting us into another endless war." A similar effort failed in the Senate, and the debate's expected to continue when Congress returns in September. They're about to all go on August recess. Senate has 2 more weeks. However, Trump ignored similar rebukes last month when both chambers passed a war powers resolution for the first time since the conflict began in February. Patience might be running short. Polling and campaigns reporter for Politico, Aaron Doherty, is here on set with me. A little bit of the explanation for why patience might be running short on Capitol Hill is that polls show how unpopular this war is and has been with the American public. in large part because I don't think it was ever really explained or attempted to be sold to them from the White House or from key Republicans. And yet here we are stretching into month 6. And I wonder what you're seeing in the data as you look at not just the short leash that it gives this White House to continue the conflict, but then also as the midterms loom.
Yeah, so the leash is shortening for sure. And so when we look at the data, we've known that the war is unpopular broadly among Americans since it started. But what we've started to see in recent weeks is that there's also some cracks emerging within the base of voters that elected Trump in 2024. These MAGA voters, so these tend to be voters who associate with the Make America Great Again movement. These are his most loyal supporters. And we've seen in polling on other issues, they've followed the president on issues, but we've started to see a little bit of a crack emerge. And so we had new poll results come out this week that found that in May, roughly half of President Trump's MAGA supporters said that the costs of the war were worth it. That number has now dropped 13 points, and this is among the MAGA Trump voters who say that the cost of the war is worth it. And so that decline is something that Republicans I talked to in swing states and battleground Republicans party chairs, operatives say that that's a warning sign that as the midterms are now nearly 100 days away, they need to get a handle on sort of convincing the American public that whether it's wrapping up soon or at least there's an off-ramp in sight.
And that is fascinating, too, because when I watch our producer in Congress asking those Republicans, is there anything that he's done that you disagree with? I ask that question and have for almost 10 years when I go to Trump rallies. And the answer usually is no. There's nothing that he's done that I disagree with. And yet when you start seeing it come up, those have been the significant inflection points. And so you have to wonder if this war is one of them. And I think the concern that I hear from Democrats often is, are people connecting the price at the pump with the decisions in Iran and across the board on tariffs and other things with the Trump administration? And I wonder if, looking at polls, they are.
Yeah, and so Democrats are very hopeful and kind of banking their midterm strategy on that at this point. And in a recent poll that we actually have coming on Politico this morning from my colleague Jesse Blazer, we found in the data that 3 in 5 Americans believe that the gas prices are higher than they actually are in their local area, which is really concerning for Republicans as they look ahead to November again and are sort of hoping that, as the president and the White House and his aides try to sort of tout positive economic indicators, they're hoping that, what voters are feeling at the pump or at the grocery store are not sort of shaping their perception of the economy. And this poll sort of suggests that there's still room for messaging to sort of convince voters that either the Iran war is not directly impacting their wallets, as many voters are skeptical of that, and there's time to turn it around.
It often feels like when I talk to voters, and this has been sort of the through line when you talk about the economy over the course of the last few years, like vibes are bad, I think is like the terse way of saying it. Is there anything that this administration could do to make it seem like they aren't, or that they are working on taking prices down? Because what the president has done on the campaign trail repeatedly, even just this week in Georgia, is to downplay affordability as a hoax that Democrats created when he got back into office, which of course isn't true because he himself campaigned on grocery prices being too high and the ability for him to be able to take them down.
Yeah, and this is something that I hear from Republicans and battleground swing states looking ahead to November, is this sort of idea that, if President Trump is able to just talk about the economic wins that the administration has had, they could have a winning message ahead of November. But the Iran war, of course, really complicates that because it's this looming presence, of course, that voters in these battleground states are wondering about and wondering how that affects their wallets, their gas prices, and those kinds of things. And so the battleground Republicans that I tend to talk to say that, if the war can wrap up by Labor Day at the latest, there's a chance to sort of turn around that economic message ahead of November. But that obviously is a very shortening timeline at this point.
And of course, as the president warns that he might restart the active war efforts, not that they haven't been trading strikes now for 13 straight nights, that is the exact opposite of what some of those battleground Republicans and frankly Republicans writ large are hoping happens here. Speaker of the House even said this week that he wasn't breaking with the president when he said that the war should be wrapped up, but at the same time, I think everyone is eager for them to find the landing place for this conflict. Polling and campaigns reporter for Politico, Aaron Doherty, thank you for coming on, starting us off.
When I look at this story, I don't just see another political headline. I see a reminder of how decisions made in Washington can ripple across the entire world. Military action isn't just about strategy on a map. It affects service members, civilians caught in conflict, global markets, and families wondering why gas prices and everyday costs keep rising. That's why debates over war powers, congressional oversight, and diplomatic solutions matter so much. They're not abstract political arguments. They're questions that shape real lives. What's also striking is that public opinion appears to be shifting. Reports suggest that even some voters who have consistently supported Donald Trump are becoming more skeptical about the direction of this conflict. That doesn't automatically answer what the right policy should be, but it does show that Americans are asking tougher questions about the costs, the goals, and the long-term consequences of continued escalation. History has shown us that entering a conflict is often far easier than ending one. Real leadership isn't measured by the size of a military response. It's measured by the wisdom to protect both national security and democratic accountability at the same time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll see you in the next video.